Pressure.
And somebody on? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independent City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 at 6:30 in the evening. Let the record show council members are here present except for Kathy Martin Willis, who had an unexpected family emergency and she will not be able to join us this evening. I don't see anybody jumping up for a visitor comment, so I'm going to keep moving forward with mayor's report. So I'm going to ask that, as mayor, I sometimes get the opportunity to recognize people for doing good things in our community. And that is where the Good Neighbor Award comes from. It recognizes people who've done great things or good things and help make our community a better place. And so I'm going to ask Karen Johnson to read the citation for this evening.
Ms. McCubbin began volunteering at the Independence Heritage Museum about 6 years ago and quickly branched out into other areas as well. As a museum volunteer, she stepped in at a time when the museum needed dedicated focus and organization. Her commitment was soon rewarded when she was nominated to lead the Museum Advisory Board. As chair of the board, she worked to reinvigorate the museum's image and raise its profile in the community. Some of her accomplishments include working with city leadership to relocate the museum to an ADA accessible location, initiating an annual city birthday party to share museum artifacts and history with residents and local businesses, establishing a museum shop to sell locally crafted items, books about the area, and photo cards, participating in manager hiring efforts to bring much needed experience and expertise to our museum, leading a group of volunteers to move the museum's collection to the new ADA accessible location, all within record time and well ahead of the planned opening. Serving as a museum docent for the enormously popular Independence Ghost Walk. Other volunteer achievements include supporting local businesses and community residents through her work with the Independence Downtown Association, and supporting Independence Days through wristband sales, park cleanup, and wherever help is needed. Vicki is that special volunteer. While she is quick to raise her hand, she knows her skill set well and where she can best contribute. Her service to this community is undeniable and inclusion.
So it's my pleasure. Come on up here, Vicki. It's my pleasure to, on behalf of the City of Independence, to recognize you and say thank you for the things that you've done. And I know that there are going to be many other things that I know that you're going to do because we're going to be proven. And so let me hand you this certificate and we're going to smile for the camera. Let's give her a round of applause, please. So I have since we met last week, I have just a brief report. Trying to figure out what order, and I'm just try to do this. For many of you who've worked with the Council of Governments for a number of years, you may have known Denise Van Dyke. She was somebody that many of us worked with for a number of years. She was with the COG for 26 years. She was killed in a traffic accident yesterday in Salem, just outside the offices. She was hit. She was a pedestrian in a crosswalk, and she was killed yesterday. And it's a real loss to those of us who worked with her through the Council of Governments, through the all the folks. And so there's 43 member governments that she touched in so many ways. And so I'll be letting her family know condolences from our city. And I just want you to, I know some of you have worked with her, some of you have not. I know the city manager and I have, and it comes as a, yes, we have to just be thoughtful sometimes. So in a kind of a different flavor, just keeping you informed that last week the city manager and I met with Representative Senator Merkley's staff. They came here to our community and we had a nice visit with them about a number of our priorities and where we'd like earmark funds to be allocated. And so we're working hard on trying to make those kind of things happen. And finally, as many of you have known, I am the president of the League of Oregon Cities Foundation, which is focused on providing scholarships for education training for elected officials here in the state of Oregon. The LOC board has reappointed me to that position, and the LOC Foundation has also reelected me to that position. So I'll continue working with mayors and city managers and councilors from around the state to help make sure that elected officials from around the state get the training that they need to be able to help move their cities forward. So those are the kinds of things that have been going on in the last week. Appreciate that. I'm going to ask our city manager for her report at this point, please. Ms. West, good evening.
I apologize, Council. I have known Denise for a long time, almost 2 decades. And I told the mayor I would be fine, and I think I lied. So my apologies. As I always do, welcome to those people who come today to our city council meeting and those who are joining us on Zoom. For anyone new to our meetings, I'll summarize our process and procedures. The mayor runs the meeting. This is one of the jobs that he was elected to do. He announces the agenda item. Staff member will provide a summary of the issue. Council can then ask questions of staff. Once the questions are answered, there may be some discussion and a motion will be made, and then a second to the motion. After that, there may be additional discussion or not, as determined by the mayor and council. Then a vote of the council will take place and then on to the next item on the agenda, and so on and so forth. As I always say, what you're going to see here is a very professional council. It's not like what you may see on drama on TV. This council may disagree, but they do it respectfully and they do it without disparaging each other. They are good people doing good work for the business of the city. Tonight is going to be just a little bit different because we have an executive session. Executive sessions are allowed for certain reasons under ORS 1926602. The mayor will go into the details of this executive session a little later tonight. During the executive session, only council and designated staff, along with news media, can attend. So during that time, we will remove to the mayor's conference room and the Zoom link will either be paused or closed down. Once the executive session is completed, we'll return to council chambers and the business of the city will continue. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us tonight, either in person or in Zoom. We appreciate that you want to know what's going on and we appreciate your attendance. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. We're going to get into new business and I'm going to ask Ms. Butch. I think it's to you. Good evening.
Good evening. So we have tonight before you a consolidated promissory note. And this consolidates all of the promissory notes into one. These created through the years with when the city loaned to Minnet to cover any shortage of professors. We have tonight here PJ Armstrong from Minnet, and he's going to give you a little summary overview, and he is also available to answer questions.
Good evening, Mr. Armstrong. Welcome to City Council.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding the positive news of Minett's plan to begin repayment of past debt service shortfall notes to both cities. To Gloria's report, I wanted to be here to add a general explanation of how we arrived at the payment schedule being presented. And I put together several key points that I'd like to share with you. Our promissory note consolidation and repayment plan began with a 5-year historical analysis of Minnet services, technical and financial trends. It was roughly 5 years ago when Minnet developed its most recent strategic plan, began replacing its legacy and outdated BPON environment with the modernized GPON solution, and auditors reported that the company was financially stable. So we used trends over the past 5 years and projected them forward to develop the consolidation and repayment plan we're discussing here today. This plan takes into account customer growth in our legacy Monmouth and Independence markets, as well as projected new customer acquisition and growth in the Dallas market. In order to keep projections and the plan conservative, we purposely did not include any anticipated additional revenues that might be gained through future expansion efforts outside of Monmouth, Independence, and Dallas. We feel that this is the most reasonable and responsible approach to address the debt service shortfall and use those reasonable projections to create the promissory note consolidation repayment plan. In the plan, we propose an agreement to review the repayment schedule at least every 5 years. In a 5-year period, we can reasonably predict Minnet trajectory based on recent past performance and market conditions. Predictions beyond this become less reliable. A schedule for review is a responsible approach that provides a built-in opportunity to revise the agreement if needed. That way, if Minnet overperforms or underperforms, we have a built-in review process to adjust the repayment schedule and the terms. So I feel the most important points to all of this are that over the last 5 years, we've gone from a significant amount of annual debt service shortfall to making the full annual debt service payment to both cities this year. And I foresee no reason that this will not continue into the future. Perhaps most notably, despite being sidetracked by COVID early on, at just 3 years in, we're very successful in the Dallas market. We've reached a point where our reputation really speaks for itself there. And we still have a lot of growth left to do in that market. That means that our reimbursement revenue as the operator will continue to increase. As I mentioned, that technology is hard to predict, so we did build into the agreement those 5-year points of review, but I'm very optimistic this plan is achievable. So those are the notes that I hope to share with you this evening, and happy to discuss further as needed.
Great, thank you. Did you have anything else you wanted to add,
I
Laura?
don't have anything to add, but if there's any questions.
Questions, Councillor Joe?
I had a question. I don't understand the difference between Monmouth Independence Minnet and Dallas Minnet. So can you explain it?
Willamette Valley Fiber is just a doing business as name, and that's what we term Dallas. It's also, if we are doing expansion efforts outside of the cities of Monmouth and Independence, that's falling under Willamette Valley Fiber. So Minnet,
Okay,
just
so-
Monmouth Independence networks.
Okay, so Minnet did not take a loan from Dallas at all.
We're a paid operator of that network.
Paid operator of the network. Okay,
Minnet and Willamette Valley Fiber are one and the same.
okay.
Thank you. Tom, Councillor,
Yeah, so when you're considering future business, you didn't include Rick Rial.
We did not.
Okay,
Just to keep it conservative, we did not.
all right, thank you.
Councillor Roden, you had a question?
I have a couple. Is this debt all inclusive of debt owed to the city, or is this just on the bonds reflected in this agreement?
So this is all inclusive of what Minnet owes to the city. It does not include what Minnet owes out in bonds. So those bonds are a different type of debt.
And how much are the bonds worth?
I don't know what is outstanding currently on Minnet bonds.
The other question is, what as council, do we have any say on the 3% interest rate? It seems like that wouldn't even cover inflation these days. Why did we agree to a 3% payback?
That was decided years ago. I don't know why and what the theory behind that was. Historically,
Does that make good sense to you as a business person to collect a 3% debt on interest that inflation is going to make that meaningless? We're going to lose money if we're only collecting 3%.
I believe that as far as working with Minnet and as a loan between two governmental entities, that 3% is reasonable. We won't lose anything on that. It is already outstanding. And as long as Minnet is not paying on that, that's when we're losing our opportunity to invest. Currently, with this plan, and they start paying that is our opportunity to reinvest what was outstanding.
And is this 3% retroactive, or does this become due as of now?
So that 3% has been accruing since inception, since the first promissory note all the way through. So that has been accruing all over these years, and it will continue.
Where is that in the $9.9 million? Because that's the amount I've heard about since being on council. Where does the interest accrued enter into this calculation?
I could give you a detailed amortization that would show how it's accrued from year to year. If you would like.
But it's included in this payment back.
It is included.
Good, because it's not stated here.
So the original principal without the accrued interest is $3,502,297, and that's in the that is in the promissory note shown here. And so the accrued interest is on top of that to make up that.
Additional questions? Counselor Core.
Karen, in keeping with the Scribner's errors in the narrative of this, on the last page on the table, shouldn't it be principal PAL on both those headers as well?
Whereabouts?
On the last page of what you handed out to us, Appendix A,
What paragraph?
the last page with the table. Yeah, the two headers should be principal PAL instead of PLE, I think.
Yeah, we missed that too. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Synonyms are your enemy.
Present. Counselor Joe.
I have one more question, sorry. Okay, so the debt was 4.1 million, right? And then the bonds were 9.9 million?
Is
that right? Well, it says, but it says in the recitals in Part B that talks about the bonds.
That, the beginning in the recitals there, the 9.9 million, that was the initial bonds, 2010. And that is what made up the division between Monmouth, the cities of Monmouth and Independence. So Monmouth received 65% and Independence received 45%. When they have, whenever Minnet was under under they make their debt service payments, it was divided, what they had available to make those debt service payments was divided between the city of Monmouth and Independence based on their investment.
So they're the original bonds, but not new.
Exactly.
We're talking about new bonds now? Is that, are we talking about new bonds now?
We are
'Cause
not in this. This is just that portion of the recital just memorializes the initial investment and how payments were divided.
Right.
Could I
add a couple of comments to that?
If you have you have questions, so go ahead.
No. This is just clarifying comments.
Everybody okay? Go ahead, Counselor.
Just wanted to say that the 55-45 was based on the two cities' populations at the time that Minnet was formed, which was back in 2005. And the initial debt service that was assumed by both cities has been now completely assumed by Minnet, is paying 100%. And this is going back now to repay the cities for the debt service shortfalls from 2005 to present. So that means that Minnet is now 100% responsible for all debt that was accrued and incurred.
Okay. Additional? Thank you very much. And just so everybody knows, we did have a slightly an updated document. There were a couple Scrivener's errors that staff pointed out, and they are literally a Scrivener's error and a capitalization and a word change, which are not substantive. So I just want everybody to know what that is. This is an action item.
So I move to approval of the Minnet Consolidated Promissory Note Agreement as presented with the inclusion of the Scrivener's errors and the other one that was just found.
Second.
Okay, and I think you also included the words authorize the city manager or designee to sign the agreement.
Was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Oh, I didn't see that part down there. Yes.
And Karen, you have
But it
that,
says right down there.
right? Okay, and I have a second from Counselor Core. Okay, appreciate getting this all taken care of. Unless there's discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you, PJ. Let's move forward. Mr. Irvine, I think you have the next item tonight.
Evening, Mayor and Council. Just kind of run through things fairly quickly. I think my staff report and the policy are fairly self-explanatory, but we've had a couple of new parks created in the community the last several years. And just in some internal conversations, we were talking about the fact that they're beginning to have assumed names, but not actual official names. And so in looking into, kind of how to officially create a name for a park, we realized that really our only kind of naming policies or procedures are enshrined in really kind of intended more for specifically for memorials. And that kind of kicked off this process of creating a new policy for how we go about creating names for public facilities, parks and things like that. And so that's what you have before you tonight. Again, the idea was to create a fairly straightforward process to be able to solicit or receive, name ideas or suggestions along with a justification in a written format. It would go to staff for a quick review, and then would go to the Parks Commission, the Parks Board, who would allow for at least one opportunity for public comment. Ideally, depending on the type of facility being named, they may want to do a more extensive public involvement process, where they would then review the names, select 1 to 3, pass them on to the City Council for the ultimate decision. The policy itself lays out the criteria, which is really around the name of a person or group of people, concept, event, place, or natural feature, which is identified, particularly with that public land or facility, a group of people or person of historical or cultural significance. Ideally, the name of abutting streets or adjacent subdivisions, developments, or a person or group of people whose contribution, financial gift, or donation is significant to the public land or facility. So we're trying to create some sideboards while still leaving a broad area to choose from in terms of selecting names. The other thing I'll point out is in creating a naming policy or procedure, we also wanted to create a renaming policy or procedure as well. Not because we have any particular desire or see a need to rename any existing facilities, but we're going to create a naming policy. We should at least create the process to rename if necessary. And I just want to kind of highlight, we did also that this policy identifies that renaming a facility bears a higher standard of judgment than creating a new name for a new facility, you know. An existing name that's been around for a long time, you know, shouldn't just be changed willy-nilly. And that's what this policy states. So with that, I will wrap up my summary and be happy to answer any questions.
Questions for the presenter? I have one. And I'm sorry, was trying to find it here. Is it in here that to name for a person, they have to be deceased?
Yes, if it's going to be named after a person, they need to be deceased for at least 2 years.
Okay, just as a comment for future consideration, I think this is important. I just call to attention that when we named Toff Park, it was sometimes I know in these procedures that sometimes a person has to be over a certain age, and just and I did not speak to you guys in advance about that, and sorry, I got busy. And so I just wanted to throw that out as a possible future consideration. But
I saw that too, and I was wondering why does someone have to be dead for 2 years?
I think, I mean, generally, that seemed pretty common in most of the policies that I saw from other communities. And I think it's probably because once they've passed, there's no chance that they may somehow sully their name.
Oh.
I honestly don't have a great answer for that question, but that would be my presumption about it.
Okay, thank you.
so, anybody else have any questions here? It is an action item.
I move to approve resolution 22-1576, establishing a parks naming policy.
Second.
A motion second by Morton. Discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to go to executive session. I'm going to read that portion now. The Independent City Council will now meet in executive session for the purpose of review the performance of the city manager. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 1926602I, which allows the council to meet in executive session. Representative of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Representative of the news media are specifically directed not to report on any of the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decisions will be made in executive session. This time, the council will adjourn to the conference room for the duration of the executive session. At the end of the executive session, once the executive session is adjourned, we'll return to open session in the council chambers. Without objection, we're going to go to the executive session, and we're going to be in the conference room just behind you. So Okay. We're back in session from the executive session, and my report out is that we had a chance to meet with our city manager. We like what she's doing for our community. We're looking forward to things coming forward, and we're very glad that she's our city manager. So thank you very much. With that, council announcements. Anybody have anything they need to say? Without somebody say, just
Adjourn.
adjourn. And we'll see you in January. Tom, you need to be
Unless I
here.
get COVID, yes.
We need you to be here.
Let's not do that.
So happy holidays to everybody and looking forward to seeing you all in the new year. Good evening.